Hello and welcome to my battle video for the week 4 of the season 6 of the NPL. I'm against Trev, and there'll also be a Teambuilder part in this as well. Trev and the Atlanta Braviaries, and his team is Celesteela, Megadiancy, Alolan Marowak, Reuniclus, Alomomola, Zygarde 50%, Mimikyu, Dragalge, Komala, Mesprit, and Emboar. Now, his Z-move users are Zygarde, Mimikyu, and Emboar as well. The first thing you're probably noticing about the team is that there are two Pokemon, the first two, that weren't on my team last week. And that is because Kyurem and Whimsicott have joined the team in place of Guzzlord and Ferrothorn respectively. Kyurem was a free agency transaction because Kyurem is amazing, and Whimsicott was in exchange for Ferrothorn with another Majors coach called Jolt. It's just a really good Pokemon, and my team is more momentum heavy this season. I have gone into essentially a rather offensive build with a couple of defensive picks here and there, and Whimsicott can do both of them. It is a Pokemon I'm familiar with before, so that's why I picked it up. Anyway, as I did go over his team already, you might have noticed it's pretty scary. Megadiancy, especially with the speed drop no longer applying, Alolan Marowak, which is just a really decent check to several of my main attackers like Xurkitree. Celesteela is not to be underestimated whatsoever. Reuniclus is something that is really threatening to my team as well. And that's basically, this is not an easy matchup at all. Mimikyu as well is really difficult for me to actually deal with, and I'm gonna struggle against that thing, I feel. But nonetheless, we've prepped for all of those threats accordingly, and I'm about to walk you through the 16 missing. I'll just pop that in HP, yes. Anyway, we are jumping into this game this week. We've got a 2-1 record. Trev is slightly worse unless he's on a 1-2 record. And I'm really wanting to make a good statement this week, because Trev is a previous champion of the NPL. I think he's gotten into the playoffs every single season. He's an amazing battler, and my 2 wins thus far have been kind of suspect, despite both being 5-0 wins. The first win against Dallas week 1, that was a really close game, and it should have been reflected more in the scoreline. It was not a 5-0 performance. And my game against Razor, that was just kind of matchup. He didn't really prepare for a Dragon Dance Altaria. So I'm looking to prep and play against one of the very solid players in the NPL, which all of them are, but one of the ones that has previously won it and has a certain caliber that, as much as Razor and Dallas are very good players, they don't quite have in comparison. And I mean, that's still doing them a disservice. They've both made playoffs, and they're both very good. It's hard to put into what I'm saying, but basically there have been question marks on how much my wins actually reflect how well I've played, and I want to make a definitive statement this week that I am going to play and prep very well this season. So, first of all, Kyurem, I dropped Guzzlord for it. It was actually available in the draft when I picked up Guzzlord, so yeah, that was a bad decision. Yeah, this Kyurem is amazing. Kyurem in general is one of my favorite Pokemon, and I might actually just I might use physical, I might use special, I might use any sort of Kyurem set this season. It gets Dragon Claw. It doesn't get any physical ice move. It gets its move pool is amazing. Its options, Toxic, Sub, Roost. It's just an incredible Pokemon, and I'm very much looking forward to using it this season to the best of its capabilities. And in the first matchup that it has, I'm bringing it immediately because I feel like it does do really well versus his team. Now, Trev has a rather slow team. Celesteela, Alolan Marowak, Reuniclus, Alomomola, Dragalge, Komala, Mesprit, Emboar, they all get outsped by Kyurem. And even the remaining ones, like Zygarde, that's at best a speed tie. Mimikyu just trolls me by being exactly 1 point higher base speed than me. And Megadiancy does not want to come in on this at all. Hello. This thing is powerful. 130 special attack. This is higher special attack than regular Kieran Black. That makes no sense whatsoever. Well done, poor man. Oh well. So, Sub Roost I feel is really, really good. It helps me capitalize on these switches, and with the bulk investment that I do have, this thing is actually just a defensive monster for him to try and take down. If he brings things like Celesteela, Aloma Mola, Kamala, Mesprit, all of them pretty much lose 1v1 to Kyurem, and even a Zygarde, it needs to be offensive DD in order to actually kill this Kyurem effectively, and that's by locking itself into Outrage when I do have things like Mega Altaria and Whimsicott on my team. I'm not anticipating Zygarde, in other words. It's just a really, really solid build, Pokemon to build around this week. Sub Roost, I've had a few mocks already, and Sub Roost genuinely stores out half of his team by itself. Celesteela, I've had pick up a kill, get a special defense boost, and then I go into Kyurem, and Celesteela either loses by dying or is forced out because it gets PP stalled. Sub Roost, sub so that Leech Seed won't affect me, Roost so that I can outstall Heavy Slams, which does about 56% with leftovers, and the Roosting, it basically does 0. So yeah, this Kyurem set is a really, really nice set to bring this week. I am just speed creeping positive speed Zygarde, with not positive speed Zygarde, minimum speed. Fucking, I can't speak. Max speed Zygarde without a positive nature. That's the one. Yeah, it's a landmark I'm kind of familiar with because Ray reaches the exact same mark in Ubers, so I go for the same speed point that I set some of my Arceus to. And as a result, I know instantly that it's 290 speed, and that takes 152 EVs in terms of speed, and the 100 EVs for bulk give me pretty much all that I want in Kyurem to do, because it means I have well over 400 HP. I'm doing a huge amount of damage because I can afford to invest heavily in my special attack stat. I'm bulky enough to live pretty much any hit. I think that even things like Mimikyu, Play Rough, it doesn't OHKO this thing. And this means that I can take on a number of his Pokemon 1v1 and come out on top. So yeah, this is the Kyurem set. Pressure is also key on this set because otherwise I would lose to things like the Celesteela, and probably the Alolan Marowak too. Alolan Marowak can't really do much versus this team, and part of that is because of the next Pokemon that I accidentally just clicked on, which is my Whimsicott with Moonblast, U-Turn, Energy Ball, and Shadow Ball. I bet you're all anticipating a Praxis set with Screens, especially given that the nickname is Screens, baby. Or something like Tailwind, so that I can abuse some of my slow but really powerful breakers like Buzzwole and Xurkitree. No, neither of those two are coming, and I'm going with a Specs fully offensive Whimsicott this week with just enough EVs to outpace the Mega Diancie. I'm reaching 352 speed, so that any Mega Diancie set, it won't be a problem. I can live any one hit that Mega Diancie wants to go for against me, and I can OHKO it back with Energy Ball unless he gets the Moonblast special attack drop, which would be... that would be very shit if that happened. So, yeah, the remaining EVs just go a little bit into HP so that I can live things like Moonblast and Diamond Storms. I feel like the hit 48 HP means I definitely live a Diamond Storm from Max Attack, Jolly, Mega Diancie after Rocks damage, but I'm honestly not 100% on that calc. So yeah, basically the 48 HP just means I live things that I wouldn't otherwise. Moonblast, general good stab to have. It helps me versus Zygarde, it helps me versus Dragalge. It's the strongest thing I have to hit a couple of things on his team as well, and yeah, it's just basically useful. U-Turn is entirely for momentum purposes. If he sees that I'm Specs earlier on in the game, or I can alternatively just go for the U-Turn against him at any given point, and as a result, he might lead himself to believe that I am the support set that I am bluffing. But yeah, U-turn is there just so I can get momentum. I've got a number of things that can capitalize on his common switch-ins into this. For example, the Alolan Marowak, I have got my Nidoqueen. If he goes into Reuniclus, I've got Sesk, my Kartana. If he goes into Mesprit or something like that, I've basically just got answers to what he wants to go into. Yeah, so that's the thing. Energy Ball it's pretty much there entirely because Mega Diancie exists. I mean, it also hits Alomomola, but I don't care about that. I just want this to kill Mega Diancie if it needs to. So that's nice. And Shadow Ball is there for Alolan Marowak and for Reuniclus and Mesprit. And it also hits Mimikyu, but Mimikyu is not the sort of Pokemon I want to take on 1v1 versus with Whimsicott anyway, and I do have answers for Mimikyu on the rest of my team. I'm more hoping that if he goes into Mimikyu, I can just break its disguise by a U-turn and go out into something that can really punish it. So, the next Pokemon on my team is my Sesk, my Kartana, and after bringing that OU ladder set last week where it raises its speed, I decided to go with another speed raising set this week, this time a Salakberry set. Yeah, I'm not going to bring that weak thing again. Well, I might actually, it's a decent bring, but not this week at the very minimum. And I'm just going with a Sword Stance, Substitute, Leaf Blade, and Night Slash thing. We'll just go 1 less HP so that when we get our subs, we just instantly go down to our Salak. But sub, SD, pretty self-explanatory. If I come in versus things like the Alomomola and it decides to go for a Scald, it'll break my sub, but I'm honestly not sure if that's the case, but I imagine it is, just because look at this. This doesn't even reach 100. But sub on the switch out from Alomomola, I can SD on things behind a sub, and then +2 Kartana is a nightmare to try and deal with. I can also get the boost in speed against things like, not against things, but to help me deal with things like any potential Scarfers he might bring, or the Mega Diancie in particular. So yeah, that's why I'm bringing this particular Kartana set. Leaf Blade hits most of his team well. It hits Mega Diancie, it hits Alomomola, Zygarde 50%, it does damage too. It doesn't OHKO it, obviously, it's a Zygarde, but it still does a good bit of damage. And it's the strongest thing I have to hit things like Kamala. Night Slash is specifically for things like Alolan Marowak and Reuniclus and Mimikyu. It's still decent, but the unfortunate thing about this particular coverage is that I don't have any coverage for Emboar, so I'm kind of hoping he doesn't bring that. But I do have Rain, and I do have Mega Altari, which did just pick up 5 kills last week, so I'm not anticipating him to want to provoke the Altaria, basically. Was it 5 kills or was it 6 kills last week? I've already forgotten. Yeah, so this set is basically just really good versus his team, and the EVs, I'm outspeeding a Mimikyu. I have the HP to so that when I set up subs, it just automatically activates the Salakberry. I don't need to go down to 1%. And it's max attacks, and then I put 1 extra speed point into speed because there was a remaining one, and on the off chance he speed creeps his Diancie to be 2 points faster than his Mimikyu. Yeah, it's not going to happen, but come on, it's fair enough. So next up is T3G, the Nidoqueen. I'm actually bringing Poison Point Nidoqueen this week, specifically for the Mimikyu. Now, Mimikyu is a pretty big threat to my team due to the fact that it can get up a free SD pretty much every single week. The disguise ability is really good on it, and I don't want to be forced to rely on my Kartana to deal with it, especially when I do have a defensive option like this. It's sitting there in the back. I don't need speed on it this week. I've just gone with 32 special attack EVs, so that Flamethrower does a specific amount of damage to Celesteela, so that it can't be sub-bait, is what I'm trying to say, if it's max HP, max special attack. Stealth Rock, because rocks, and then I put on Toxic Spikes. I'm not anticipating him to bring Dragalge this week, and Toxic Spikes could be really useful in wearing down his team. Things like the Eloma Mola, if he brings Regenerator Reuniclus, they really don't appreciate the Toxic Spikes being up, and his only hazard removal is Kamala, which I can wall with my Sableye. Yeah, and Sludge Bomb is just chosen over Sludge Wave because it gives me the extra 30% poison chance on Mimikyu if I'm 1v1 versus it. If he comes in against me, or if I live a +2 Shadow Claw and then another one, which basically means I don't get crit on one of the 2 Shadow Claws, then I can go for Sludge Bomb, try and get the extra poison chance, because Disguise does not stop secondary chances. Like, you can get burned by Scold, can get poisoned by Sludge Bomb, etc. So overall, I think I have something like a 70% chance to poison the Mimikyu just by using this Nidoqueen set. So I'm kind of going off that because, yeah, it's 30% chance whenever it makes contact. 2 of those means that it's a 51% chance, plus the Sludge Bomb damage, not damage, but the poison chance from Sludge Bomb. It's incredibly highly in my favour to get the burn. The poison, which just helps wear it down significantly. Yeah. Now, next up was a rather late addition to the team, but I initially wanted to use webs, and so I brought a webs user. Sticky Web, Leaf Storm, Magic Coat, and Knockoff. Sticky Web is pretty obvious, it's Sticky Web. Leaf Storm is going to be specifically so that I have a guaranteed OHKO on the Mega Dynasty. Even max HP, it's something like a 98% roll in my favour to OHKO it. Although there's the 10% miss chance, so I suppose it's not. And as I said, his only other hazard removal is the Kamala, so I could go for the Sticky Web, and he would not be able to get rid of them unless I sacked off my Sableye by being stupid. Whew. Oh, I forgot to mention that Nidoqueen can also help me deal with Mega Diancie so long as it does not get Calm Minds up. Calm Mind Mega Diancie is a huge threat to my team. I'm relying on him thinking that I've got Scarfers and I'm probably going to bring Whimsicott and etc, so that I'm not anticipating him to bring the Calm Mind Mega Diancie, but it is still a huge threat that I need to consider. Knockoff is specifically there so I can remove things like Leftovers on Celesteela and Thick Club on Alola and Marowak. Well, it's Knockoff, you know what Knockoff does. And Magic Coat is just on the off chance he tries to go out into his Stealth Rock setter on this, despite having seen me bring Magic Coat versus Riz Week 2. So, that's the Leavanny set. If I can get webs up, my Kartana just annihilates him, as does my Kyurem. They are incredibly good Pokemon against his team, and if they can't outspeed them with things like the Mimikyu, that's a huge deal, because behind a sub, Kyurem would actually win that 1v1. Behind a sub, it's at, let's say, after Leftovers, it's at 81% as he's gone out into Mimikyu. Ice Beam breaks the first Disguise. Ice Beam will proceed to do well over 50%, and then the Mimikyu goes for Play Rough, breaks a sub. At this point, I'm at about 90%, or just shy, 88% I think I'm at. And then he goes for another Play Rough, but I outspeed, so I can go for Ice Beam and kill it. Or he goes for another Play Rough there, even if webs aren't off, and I live anyway. So, yeah, webs just help me a lot versus his team. They also kind of help other areas of my team as well, just particularly the Kartana and the Whimsicott if he has any Scarf Pokemon. That'll be helpful in terms of outspeeding them. Even Nidoqueen, this could mean that it outspeeds things like Choice Banded Emboar, or things like the Kamala, or other things on his team that I might want to switch out on. So that's the Leavanny set. Finally, there is Sableye, and we're going with a Calm Mind set this week. Calm Mind, Recover, Dark Pulse, and Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp is specifically so that I can deal with the Kamala 1v1. The EVs are specifically so that Rocks plus Earthquake plus Burnt Earthquake do not kill Sableye. In case Will-O-Wisp misses, basically. And it also means that I can switch in on it, so that I reliably spin block. Recover is very, very obvious. It's to recover. Calm Mind and Dark Pulse. If I can kill his 2 fairies, then this thing goes ham against most of the rest of his team. Alolan Marowak, I'm thinking if... well, underneath Sticky Webs, definitely. Sableye will outspeed that, and stuff like a +2 Dark Pulse I do think kills after Stealth Rock damage. If he is just max HP. I might be talking shit there though, because that's... I'm saying that aloud and thinking that's not Alolan Marowak, that doesn't sound right. Yeah. The EVs on this also mean that I do not die to a Life Orb Draco Meteor from the Dragalge, so versus that thing at +1, so Calm Minded already, I think. Yeah, yeah, it must be. So I can Calm Mind turn 1, not turn 1, but in a 1v1 situation like that, I can Calm Mind, as long as I have not taken rocks damage. Max roll is 99.6%, I can Calm Mind and then recover the next turn, and then if he switches out I can recover again. If he goes for another Draco Meteor I can recover again, obviously, and unless he gets a crit, Calm Mind Sableye just sets up on it, which is very, very nice indeed. This also deals with his Mesprit, kinda deals with Emboar, but not really, because Emboar is strong. Helps me deal with Zygarde 50%, means he needs to be rest talk if he wants to try and deal with me, and is a hard counter to his Reuniclus. No, there is no variant of Reuniclus that can beat this Sableye set, outside of crits. Actually, I'm lying, there is. Infestation Toxic does beat me, but I'm ignoring that set because that's a terrible set. Yeah, this Sableye is... I feel like it's going to go relatively under-noticed, and I can try and kill the Mega Diancie early, preferably with Leavanny, and kill the Mimikyu early somehow, and as a result, try and go for Sableye. The other reason I've got Sableye on the team is that Leavanny kills... what I'm anticipating as something that I wouldn't like at all would be Leavanny versus Mega Diancie. Leavanny kills Mega Diancie, and then he goes into Komala to just kill with Rapid Spin so that I cannot get rocks up, webs up. In which case I would go hard into my Nidoqueen, but yeah, it's nice just to make sure that if he does bring his spinner, I have something that can 100% deal with it. So yeah, that's my team builder for this this battle. I'll just hop into the battle now as well, so I'll see you there. So now we moved into the actual battle versus Trev, and he brought Alolan Marowak, Diancie, Dragalge, Celesteela, Mimikyu, and the Reuniclus, and instantly I'm thinking, thank fuck, there is no hazard removal. I've brought hazard stack, that's amazing. Wait, that's a Dragalge there. I didn't prep very solidly versus that. I should still be able to beat it with Sticky Webs up. So basically at this point I know instantly... Now, Leavanny is definitely leading off. There was a chance that it wasn't in other matchups, but no, Leavanny is just my turn 1 lead, and he doesn't even go into Mega Diancie to try and do any mind games of that nature or go for a miss or anything. He just lets me get up my webs, lets me sack off my Leavanny turn 2, gets rid of his leftovers for me, which I thought was especially nice of him. And, I mean, I know Celesteela, I know it's Calcs because I've done a few mocks of this, and I know that I can just set up my rocks here, because there's nothing that Celesteela can really do to prevent me from doing that. And here, I do just try and go for a bit of a weird play here. I got into Whimsicott, because I felt like he might try and double into Diancie there, but no, he does just go for a Future Sight, and I go for U-turn there. Now I'm just going to explain that. I thought that turn that my Sableye was so obvious of a switch in to the Reuniclus, he might try and capitalize that by going out into his Diancie, at which point I basically lost a Pokemon. So I thought, I'll be aggressive, I'll go hard into my Whimsicott here, and then I can just go, I can pressure it out with an Energy Ball and go for a U-turn. If I need to. I was going to go for Energy Ball, I'm not going to risk it versus the Diancie. And then, if he goes into Alolan Marowak, I can go out into my Nidoqueen, set up my Toxic Spikes, and I'm generally in a decent position already. But no, he does just go for a Future Sight that turn, which means that, thankfully, Whimsicott didn't take any damage. But then I just choose to go straight for a U-turn thinking, okay, that's a bit that's a bit odd, but he's gone for Future Sight. I can just go out into Sableye here. Future Sight doesn't affect Sableye, and it's 2 turns time, so it'll be the turn that he switches that will matter. So I go out into Sableye as he goes for the Psychic, and he goes into Celesteela as I go for a Will-O-Wisp, and here I just take the incoming Future Sight, and yeah, it was a Future Sight, nothing special. But here I go back out into my Nidoqueen. While that looks like a lot with the Black Sludge recovery, that would not have been a 2-hit KO after the +1 boost, so I did know what I was doing earlier. I get up my Toxic Spikes there, and here I just go for a Flamethrower as he gets crit. It didn't matter, it was a 2-hit KO anyway, but the result of that's actually kind of bad for me, because I'm left at 30% when I would have been at 36%, and that puts me in range of certain things. Including anything that Dragalge went to, but I mean I was in range of Dragalge anyway. But he surprises me by actually being a Scarf Dragalge, and while that is a very good prep on his part, that's also very not good prep on his part, because through the combination of Whimsicott, Sableye, and Kartana, he can't click either of his stabs with this thing anymore. Because Dragon Pulse, I go out into Whimsicott, I'm immune to it, and if he goes for Sludge Wave at any point, then Kartana just comes in and wrecks his face, because look at this now, with a Swords Dance boost under its belt, Kartana just destroys the entire rest of his team. Although I would have to be careful with Mega Diancie, because in regular form Diancie does have Clear Body, so it would not be affected by the Sticky Webs at first. So, I know he's switching out there, I know he's Scarf, and I know that his switch-ins are kind of limited to the Alolan Marowak and the Reuniclus. So here I do decide just to go for a Specs Shadow Ball and do a huge chunk to this Marowak, as it is actually 2-hit KO'd. He didn't see the point in preserving it, I didn't either, because rocks were of course up. Whimsicott, I just want to see the damage here on the Reuniclus. I do feel like he's going to go for Future Sight anyway, as he does go for Future Sight, and that means I can just hard switch into my Sableye once again. And he actually goes for Shadow Ball, predicting me there. That's fine. You can see the Shadow Ball damage, it's not doing anywhere near enough. And here I can just go for a Will-O-Wisp, expecting the Diancie to switch in, and it does indeed. So there's the Wisp, and here is the turn where I go into my Whimsicott, because I can live any one hit that this Diancie wants to go for, and I can outspeed it next turn. Even if it's Rock Polish, I can live a hit next turn. He goes for the Moonblast, it does 90%, as I then just go for the Energy Ball next turn. But now he has Mega'd, he will be affected by the speed drop, and I'm thinking this looks like it's Kyurem's time to shine. So I do just go hard out into my Kyurem. Yeah, here he did predict me to go out into my Sableye there, that's why I went into Dragalge, but Kyurem was fine in that situation because it does kind of beat this Reuniclus 1v1 anyway, as I will proceed to demonstrate. I forgot to mention, he actually revealed that he is Magic Guard Reuniclus due to the fact that he is taking Stealth Rock damage, not Magic Guard, he's Regenerator Reuniclus. He's taking Stealth Rock damage, and he's being affected by, I don't know if it is affected by Sticky Webs or not, but basically he's Regenerator, as opposed to Magic Guard. So the Toxic Spikes being, well, the Dragalge Brig in particular was very good, because without that Dragalge then I would have had would have been able to get up my Toxic Spikes, and this would have been a lot quicker. But he does go into Reuniclus on my substitute, and here I just decide to fire off an Ice Beam, and that damage tells me that that is definitely Assault Vest. Psychic hits me, but I actually know my calcs, and I know that 1v1 I've got a good chance of beating this Reuniclus. So he goes for Focus Blast here, does 68%, and after leftovers I'm left with 25%. I can here just go for a Recover, because if he spams Focus Blast, eventually one will miss. He only has 4 anyway, because of my pressure ability, and I can actually live a minimum another 2, and that's assuming no misses. And he is definitely in range of an Ice Beam from here, so I can just Roost on his switch out, as he actually switches out into his Diancie, just trying to sack it off to the Ice Beam, I presume. But I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a Modest Kyurem. and it looks like in the damage calc like it looks to be a roll in my favor, but I don't want to risk the game on a roll, especially when he is burnt. I have the perfect way of just getting the extra 6 to 12% off on him that I need. So I do go for a substitute on the following turn as he goes for a Moonblast. The substitute was, I mean, pretty obvious. I was just trying to make sure that I could kill the Diancie. He's now at 51%, and Ice Beam does take him out. And Kyurem just continues on its steamroller, because here comes the Reuniclus. I choose to go for a substitute here, and he does anticipate that well and goes for a Psychic. Had I gone for Ice Beam there, and he gone for Focus Blast, he could have KO'd me, so sub was the correct play. I go for Roost here because I can Roost stall this thing. Those Focus Blasts from full, Focus Blast from Reuniclus does not kill a roosting Kyurem. So here he goes for the Future Sight, and I just go for the Ice Beam the following turn as well, and I end up killing it. I half expected him to actually switch out there again to try and preserve it, but I do think that he ended up making a good decision. He went for Future Sight to go into Mimikyu, so that if I went for the substitutes, I would not be against a +2 Mimikyu while also having a substitute up. So, Mimikyu is, as I said, a dangerous threat to my team. At this point, I do feel like Kartana wins, because the Dragalge is going to be at 68... No, it isn't. It's going to be at 63% when it next comes in, and that is in range of a +1 Night Slash. So all I need to win is the damage on the Mimikyu, for which Kartana can use to pick up the kill, get the Beast Boost, and win. So I go for Ice Beam first, just to break the disguise. I know I can live a +2 Shadow Sneak after the Future Sight damage. The Future Sight proceeds to do 56% to me, 57% to me, and I'm left at 50%. Ice Beam can do a huge amount there, and he gets frozen. Now that turn, Shadow Sneak did not kill me. It could not have killed me. I think maybe a crit might have, but outside of a crit, it definitely didn't kill me. And the freeze was unfortunate. It did affect differential there, changing a 3-0 from to a 4-0. But it did not affect the outcome of the game. This Mimikyu would have been at 25%, 15% if it was a Life Orb Mimikyu. I could have just easily picked up the kill with Night Slash and then proceeded to kill the Dragalge. On the off chance that he was max HP, max speed, Scarf Dragalge, then Night Slash into Whimsicott's Moonblast would have killed. There was no way I was losing this game, essentially. So, I get the freeze. That's unfortunate for him. Just in terms of differential, but it did not affect the outcome of the game. So Mimikyu gets frozen, obviously. I'm given a little bit left over his recovery, and I just Ice Beam to kill off the Mimikyu, and then I can just Ice Beam to proceed to kill off the Dragalge as well, which is very nice, and we pick up our win for week 4. And I'm very, very pleased about this game, because I feel like I had a harder matchup this time than I did against Razor, who did really struggle against certain things on my team that you had to really prep harder for. And this was, in my opinion, I performed a lot better in this game than I did in my win versus Dallas, despite the scoreline being one less in my favor. Aside from the early game, basically since he killed my Nidoqueen with his Scarf Dragalge, I think that I had pretty much control of the game. The Focus Blast miss, well, first of all, it's Focus Blast, it will eventually miss. He hit one as well. And the more important point to that is that even if he hit all 4 of his available Focus Blasts, it wasn't killing Kyurem. And I talked through that already. So yeah, that was not a piece of hacks that really affected the outcome of the game, and I feel like I've taken a lot of confidence from this win, because Trev is an amazing battler. Check him out in the description down below, and also a big shout out to Matty Brolick, and Matty in particular, but a few of the people I did play for Mox. Matty was the one that had the idea of the Sableye, because I had kind of overlooked the Reuniclus until then. I was originally going to bring a Darmanitan over in that slot, but he awoke me to the potential of the Kamala and the Reuniclus potential that it could do to me, and I feel like Sableye, despite getting no kills, was a really big player in this game. So yeah, big thank you to him. Also thank you to the people who were giving me mocks, Carney, Gypsy, and a bunch of other people as well, just in backroom staff. I'm running out of breath. Yeah, it's been very appreciated, so thank you very much, and I will see you all next time. Peace.